there's a mystery around spiritual experiences. Nobody's talking about it. I don't hear anybody talking about it. So there's this thing, people call it near-death experiences. People suddenly, because of an accident or something, fly out of their body and end up in this world where they're like talking to beings of light or angels. It happens, Raymond Moody, Life After Life, happens everywhere so much that you make fun of it in shows like, oh, I saw the white light. It's everywhere. But in all those experiences, in thousands and thousands of experiences where you go and you talk to your deceased grandma or to these beings that are like your soul family, nobody ever says, oh, I didn't speak the language there. They said I didn't, no comprendo. Does everybody there speak English? Well, not everyone who's having these experiences speaks English. So why is it that everyone can just understand each other? That's what we're gonna give you the answer to that today. And so this is also something that you can, if you're trying to fill out your, is it monster.com still? Probably not. Your job description thingy. And it says, what skills do you have? Under languages, you can say whatever you speak and then angel language. You already, deep down, know the language that is spoken in the spiritual world. This is how Swedenborg describes it in his book, Heaven and Hell, his travelogue, Heaven and Hell. The same kind of speech we find in the spiritual world is innate in all of us, but in the deeper part of our intellect. However, since for us it does not come down into words that parallel our affections the way it does for angels, we are unaware that we possess it. So for angels, for spiritual beings, the speech is the parallel of your feelings. The words that come out of your mouth are an extension of the feelings that are inside you, and that's something that's deep in all of us. Yet, this is why we have access to the same language as spirits and angels when we arrive in the other life and know how to talk with them without being taught. You need to be taught how you feel. There are words that go with that. It's deep down in you. You just don't know it. Hey, so let's talk about the efficiency of the language of the spiritual language of angels. You know something? It's hard to put thoughts and feelings into words. You don't believe me? Look at me right now. I'm trying to keep your attention talking about this stuff. There's probably a lot of people that have already clicked off of this video because they were like, I don't know how this guy's talking doesn't really do it for me. It's hard to find the right words. Even though I have something I want to share with you, it's hard to find the right words to describe that. And it's also even harder to explain something concisely and to do it in as few words as possible. This is like something that you have to pay a lot of money to do right. You have corporations who will pay thousands and tens of thousands of dollars to marketing, branding type firms to come up with pithy little slogans that convey who they are in just a couple of words. If you think about the classics, just do it, think different. I don't know any ones that aren't from 35 years ago. But the mission statements, organizations will just labor over what's the right mission statement. Do we change that word? How do we encapsulate who we are in one sentence? When you're writing something like a speech or a book, the hard part is actually making it short. How do you cut this out? How do you cut out the fluff? Efficiency is really difficult in language. It's not hard for angels, though. Angels are masters of efficiency. Is Heaven and Hell 240. Because angels' language flows directly from their affection. Cut out the middleman. With us, we have something we want to say, and then we're trying to figure out how do I take this sort of drawer full of words that I have and get those to line up to this. This is directly the affection itself expressing itself. Angels can express in a minute more than we can say in half an hour. Well, you're not going to get good watch time on YouTube if you make a 1-minute video, and can present in a few words things that would make many pages of writing. So in this world, we often use pictures to try to convey a concept. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Emojis. Listen, I like emojis. People are like, grown men shouldn't use emojis. I love using emojis. I feel like they're fun and cute. There's pictures on road signs and speeches and videos. You have graphics, infographics, all kinds of pictures going along to expedite the message, to communicate something faster. That's a sign. The reason we respond to that is that deep down, pictures are good, efficient ways of conveying thoughts, because you can share with the picture a thought and a feeling at the same time. Angels can do that. Angelic speech, I think the reason that we tend toward, as soon as we get the technology, doing this thing where there's a dual verbal and illustrative streams coming at you simultaneously, is because that's how angels do it. So what's angel speech look like? When the details of angels' thought and the consequent details of their language are presented in visual form, they look like a subtle wave or flowing atmosphere in which there are countless elements in their own pattern. All I can think of is the visualizers. You know, when you used to play music and it would do this. Everything I know is from 30 years ago. Swedenborg sometimes would actually see the speech of angels look like clouds, looking like a shining white cloud. He would see this cloud, and each tuft of the cloud would represent some part of their idea. You ever look at a cloud and just like, and I'm sure, hopefully you do, because I do this, and just think that should mean something. That looks so cool, and those like lofty peaks, that feels like it's saying something. Well, in heaven, it really is. Sometimes you would see a fiery light which emits flashes of brilliance, and that would be another illustration of what angels are saying. And there's tons more that goes with that. Here's a little bit of him describing the imagery with these angelic word pictures.
Ideas can be revealed so vividly in the other world that they actually become visible and take on a shape, as if they were images in a painting. One individual whose ideas were revealed in this way was a person who had lived a life of charity or mutual love and had taken pleasure in the Word during his time in the world. When his thoughts were revealed, countless beautiful objects appeared, bringing with them a delight and pleasure that touched the heart.
Isn't that cool? And I guess it's kind of like when you're painting. Painting is like you have sort of, you're trying to express that. I mean, we're trying to make it here like it is there. So if what I'm describing, you think I don't like that. I'm just describing one little slice of it. Like everything else about heavenly life, there's variety, in greater variety than we have here. So how angel language looks and how it sounds, there's a whole bouquet of experiences because there's so many different people, which angels, spirits, they're just different names for people. There's so many different people, and so there's going to be so many different ways to express those hearts and minds. The place where you start with variety in the spiritual language is there's broadly the categories of thought-y kind of stuff and then emotion-y kind of stuff. And this, you don't even have to talk about angels to realize this. You can tell that some kinds of speaking are better for sharing more intellectual thoughts and some are better for sharing emotional stuff. If you're going to give a speech and you want to get a lot of ideas across and sound credible, you intuitively want to articulate. You want your words to be crisp and clear and not run together. I got some training, actually, in how to talk like that so all of you could understand what I was saying and I'd be able to communicate these things better. Aflac faxes facts about flax.
Nice. Can we find more syllables in there? I feel like we fluffed over a few syllables.
Aflac faxes facts about flax.
There it is.
Crisp is good for meaning. But if you want to talk to a little baby, You're not going to say, hello, little baby. I noticed you are upset right now. You're going to say, oh, it's okay, little baby. You make your words run together more. Hey, are you doing all right there? That's okay. Carrying this stream of soothing sound. It's really about this stream of sound. Or if you're going to reassure a grown-up or an animal, if you're going to try to calm down an animal, if there was suddenly a bear came into the studio, I would be like, that's all right, I'm just backing up, and Stuart's right over there, you can get him instead. That is, the tone matters more than the pronunciations of the words. So you got the flowing sounds for emotion, the staccato sounds for intellect. Also, babies, the first sounds they make are these soft vowel sounds. Okay, you're like, why do I need to know that? Because that reflects something about angelic speech. Swedenborg describes this category of angels that he calls the heavenly angels, who are more focused on love and feelings. And then there's this category that he calls spiritual angels, who are more focused on truth and thoughts. And this is how he describes their speech. The speech of heavenly angels is like a gentle stream, soft and virtually unbroken, while the speech of spiritual angels is a little more resonant and crisp. So that soothing stream talk is the heavenly angel way to do it, and that stimulating staccato talk is the spiritual angel way to do it. Swedenborg even says there's a difference in the vowel sounds that are dominant in the different kinds of angel or dialects that these two groups of angels speak. Heavenly angels use very few consonant sounds, mostly use the sounds of U and O, which are the softer vowel sounds. When you go to make those, your mouth has to go into a soft position. Ooh, oh. The sound of the letter A can also be very soft. Ah. So we use soft vowel sounds and fewer consonant sounds when you're talking to a baby. Oh, a little baby. We also, singers use soft vowel sounds in their song lyrics when the singer is trying to share softer emotions or a feeling of holiness. All of that is ways that we as humans in this world are tapping into that angelic language, into the spirit of that angelic language, the soft, emotional focus of the heavenly angels. Spiritual angels use more consonants and more separation in their words, and they tend toward the vowel sounds of E and I. This is what he says. You wanted some weird particulars? This is what Swedenborg says differentiates these two dialects. There's less softness in your mouth when you're making those sounds in singing, or if you're making some kind of exclamation. Those sounds are usually for more intense emotions. Like, there's a spider, ee! Or if you're like, ay! I don't know. Whatever we use to use those are intense sounds. So those are two broad categories of angel language, and the amazingly cool mechanics behind each and how they trickle down into our experience. But there's more. You wanted more? There's more variety even than that. Let's go deeper into the variety of methods by which angelic language is like buttressed and diversified and differented. Here on Earth, even if you and I speak the same official spoken language, there can be a ton of variety in how we communicate with each other. We may have different accents. We may have different phrases or figures of speech, which can be so hilariously cute when somebody uses some quaint little phrase that's normal to them, but it's different to you. Some people use more facial expressions and gestures than others. People say I talk with my hands. I gotta keep them down here. Some people use, what do they say? Drop like a $10 word. People use more complex words and sentences. They have this effortless vocabulary. Some of us stick to simple, straightforward little words. So it can be different even when you're speaking the same language. Because here I was in the beginning saying, in heaven, everyone speaks the same language. Yeah, but that doesn't mean there's not a ton of variety within that universal language of heaven. This is how Swedenborg puts it. There is a single language for everyone in heaven, But it does vary in that the language of wiser people is more profound and more full of shades of affection and specific concepts. The language of less wise individuals is less profound and not so full, and the language of simple people is still less profound, actually consisting of words that yield meaning only the way they do when we on earth talk with each other. So that's fascinating. It's really about the layers of meaning in what you say, which is kind of like Swedenborg spent all of his time unpacking the layers of meaning in the Bible. So that's just the way God likes to do it, is stick multiple meanings into things. So when you're getting to be the wisest angels, which that's just the angels that God has most opened up, when you say things, there's so much to unpack in there. And isn't that how it is with great works of literature? I remember in English class in high school, we would have to read these books, and the teachers were always like, well, guess what? When he's saying this, it also means this and this. And I was like, this is boring. I liked it, but that's what greatness is. There is a lot you can get out of. The great works of art are great because you can get a lot out of them. That's how angelic language is. As it progresses more, there's more in. It's not that you say so many more words, but each word carries more in it. And language doesn't have to be restricted to just words. Swedenborg reports all kinds of methods for communicating. He says there's a language of facial expressions that switch over to a sound modified by ideas. Again, it's kind of like with just like emojis and the regular facial expressions we use in real life. You have these sort of sound bites and GIFs that express an emotion. There's a language in which images of heaven are combined with concepts, and the concepts are presented visually. So that would be, there's a whole genre on YouTube of somebody's talking, and while they're talking, there's like a whiteboard where everything they say is being drawn. There's info. We've done plenty on this channel. There's graphics behind me and beside me and other people when we're talking. So there's that dual, the audio visual. There's a language of bodily movements responsive to affections and portraying the same things that their verbal expressions do. Again, I gesture here, but what about body language? People, I'm reading your body language, you're upset. Even interpretive dance. Don't people say that they can communicate things through dance? Wasn't I just saying something to you right there? He says there's a language of shared affections and shared thoughts, meaning like telepathy, or if we're both at this concert together and wow, we're feeling the same thing. Also, he says there's a thunderous language, which I don't know what that is or how to compare it, but it's out there. Somehow you communicate through thunder. There you go. And he says there's other languages as well. There's also, we've been talking about heaven and how heaven talks. There's languages in hell too. This is Heaven and Hell 245. The language of evil and hellish spirits is much the same because it too stems from their affections. So same mechanism, it's your heart talking, but it comes from evil affections and their foul concepts, which are utterly repugnant to angels. So if you take that same method, expressing the heart that angels do, but you're expressing the heart of all the nastiness and negativity that makes up hell, you get some pretty foul communication. This means that the languages of hell are opposite to the languages of heaven. Evil people cannot stand angelic speech, and angels cannot stand hellish people. Think about the music you hate the most. Yeah. To angels, hellish speech is like a rank odor that assaults the nostrils. And you can see that a little bit here. If you have a certain set of principles. You have a morality that you feel like is important to you, and you stand to it. And you're outside your normal social circles for whatever reason, and you're in a group of people, and they start talking about something that you are not comfortable with. It can be pretty brutal. It can be like, I do not want to be in this situation here. In the afterlife, sometimes Swedenborg says hypocrites can temporarily get into angelic communities because they can simulate words that sound like angelic speech. I can kind of like talk like you guys talk, but as soon as the inner quality of that speech is revealed, guess what it sounds like? He says it sounds like grinding teeth. That's the way the spiritual world is. The quality of something is represented like, there's all this grinding. Like, I can tell the way you're grinding your teeth when you talk. You got something to hide. Which, again, if you really had someone here who was, that's so great, you've got that anger coming through your body language. There's this quote from Psalm 35. Assailants gathered against me without my knowledge. They slandered me without ceasing. Like the ungodly, they maliciously mocked. They gnashed their teeth at me. The things in the Bible are also reflective of the things that are in the spiritual world. Some translations of that psalm say, grind their teeth at me. In the afterlife, that's just one instance of language clearly conveying the thoughts and the feelings of the person communicating. Language does what it's supposed to do, which is express what's going on. This is the way that I know what's going on in you, is through language. There, it works clearly and it works more fully. In this world, it's not always that clear. You can fake things. You can pretend to affections you don't have, but a lot of that inner quality of language can still come through. You can kind of tell. You can learn a lot from hearing someone talk, the things that they choose to talk about, but also the way in which they do it. That is just a little picture of the fullness of the communication that happens in the spiritual world. I got one more tidbit for you about your tidbit is a funny word. I have one more factoid there. That's not funny about your connection right now to angelic language. I already said you already know how to speak it. You'll automatically be able to speak it after death because it's a part of the mechanism of the human being. But your mind is speaking that language right now. And your mind, even though you're experiencing it plugged into your senses, which are here physically, your mind exists in the spiritual world. Your mind is your spirit, according to Swedenborg. So even the things that are going through our minds right now can sometimes appear through that angelic language mechanism in visual form in the afterlife. What you're thinking now can be like displaying itself up there. The individual ideas of anyone, whether an angel or one of us, can be presented visually in heaven's light when it so pleases the Lord. I don't know. So you can like beam out some happy thoughts, and you can be known and seen and everything that's like that. The language of thoughts and feelings is a universal language. Everyone's speaking it. So the more that our feelings and thoughts get aligned with the heavenly mindset, the heavenly feelings and thoughts, which again, it's what you think it is. It's mutual love, respect, reverence for the divine, and how to carry out the will of God. The more we're hanging out with that stuff in our minds, the more deeply and beautifully we start to speak that angelic language. And the more that can shine through a bit here, or the more it shines through in all kinds of ways in the life to come. So keep working on those language skills.